I mean, in your facility now, you've been open, what, 4 months now?
Yes. Yeah.
So you opened 4 months, and how long did it take for you to open? What was the process right before then? How long did it take?
Almost a year.
Yeah.
I would say probably about 10 months.
Easy.
10 and a half months.
Build out took from June till into September. October.
A little bit longer than that.
We got
yeah.
our CO in the middle of October.
Yeah. But it was all the pre-planning before that, which you were fantastic with, helping us, because you've done it for so long, and it's not an easy build out when you're dealing with the salt rooms. So we really appreciated your assistance on that, and so did the contractor, because they had no idea.
Yeah, I think they were overthinking it a little bit too.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of people, it's going to be interesting moving forward, because I think more important than ever, people are going to really need to make sure they have the right HVAC setup. I don't know how to stress it enough, and sometimes it gets overlooked by some in the past, and it's just interesting, because that's where you're going to have the biggest issues, especially as we move forward. I think part of maybe a new normal is, having standards for purging the air after a salt session. As an example, are you doing an air exchange in between sessions? And there's just different things, but to your point, there's a lot of contractors that never done this, so they don't know what they don't know. There's lessons learned along the way. Always construction is, I've worked on now maybe 1,000 projects. There's just a stereotype to the industry, sort of, right? How long do things take, and how much do things cost?
That's right. And, it's definitely an investment, but it's one that's it's a very popular part of what we offer, because we don't just have salt rooms, right? We have other services that we offer, and they all kind of complement one another. But by far, the salt room has been, even though it's pretty new to this area where we brought it. We did it down in Florida a lot. We were customers, but when we brought the actual service here, it's so new. And so a lot of what we're having to do now is it's education. It's showing people this, these are the conditions it helps with. This is how it works. This, no matter where you go, whether you come to us or somebody else, you have to have these components for it to be
real salt
any kind of benefit. Right.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the whole facility that you have, because you just mentioned you have 3 salt rooms.
Yes.
So what kind of salt rooms are they? How you have it? Large, small, medium, children's, what?
Yep. So we started out, 2 of the rooms have 4 chairs in it. They're bigger, comfortable chairs. And one room is a little bit bigger than the other one, meaning width-wise, right? So we actually do some sound bath meditations in there.
Right.
And it's great. And then we have a smaller 2-seater, which is more of a private, room for people if they either have a little bit more severe case of something, or they just want the privacy.
Yeah, and it's ADA compliance. It's wheelchair accessible as well.
Yeah, very good. Yeah.
And then we have 2 infrared sauna rooms, because that's very popular. And then we have a float tank.
Right.
So that's very popular. And then we also do massage therapy in one of our flex space rooms. And then we just do other types of smaller, we do a lot of networking at our facility, because we're part of a variety of different networking groups. So we like to bring people in, because a lot of it's really is showing people, because I could tell people all day long, oh, we have a salt room, and they're thinking, okay, that's great. But then when we open up the door and we show them, they're like,
they're blown away.
oh my gosh, like, we have no idea. They're like, what is this? Like, is this real salt? They don't know.
Yeah.
And we joke around and we say, well, you can lick it because it's real salt, but we prefer you don't.
Especially now. There's a lot of people that are in this business, and it's kind of evolved over the years. From the very beginning, was probably 8 years ago when I started Salt Chamber in 2012, there was only about a dozen facilities around the country. And, right now, there's probably about 1,200 in North America. And it keeps growing year over year. More and more people are becoming aware of it. I do think there's an opportunity now of really generating good awareness about the respiratory benefits. At the Salt Therapy Association conference last year, we kind of showed people where we were in the state of the industry in terms of this curve. And part of that curve part is getting that education and awareness out there. And I think we're starting to kind of bend that curve a little bit more. And at the same time, we talked about you also are going to have people trying to get into this business. And it's amazing to me of how many products I've been seeing. It's all about respiratory now and different claims. We've had a couple of recent things come to my desk where people were making claims of some kind of saline solutions and these misters now. And, the FDA is actually really cracking down hard on some of that. And so that's where we have to be real smart about the education and awareness aspect of this, because when people do see it, yes, it's cool to have that wow factor. But then when you explain it, I've been on the line with some doctors and, there's a lot more interest right now in getting into the science of it. And as the Certified Halotherapist program has been rolling out, it's just been a lot more knowledge. And that's a lot of what we need right now.
I agree, because we have the information brochures, at the facility. And so when it's in front of them and they're seeing all of the different conditions that help, they're like, oh yeah, my husband has this, I have this, my friend has this. And what's even more interesting is that once they finish the salt room treatment and they come out, one, they don't want to leave. They're like, yeah, we're moving in. And two, we've had people that were dependent on their inhalers for asthma that no longer use them.
Right.
And we have story after story after story like that.
And I think part of what people need to be doing in the industry is, while yes, we need to have clinical studies done now, immediately, collecting all those anecdotal testimonials and to be able to memorialize them is an initiative that I think every facility should really be doing. How do we collectively create those stories and share that information? Because we all have people that we know have stories, right? There's stories out there about people, and it'd be great to have a story about taking a portable salt room and just putting it in a hospital, parking lot for people to be able to go in and get salted. What about getting it to first responders that are, raging fires over in California? What if there's some protocols established? So I think there's, to your point, people see it, people go in, people do get, benefits from it. So without a question, there's benefits. Now, how can we quantify and qualify that so that we can start having a more accelerated way for people to become aware about this? Mm-hmm. And that this become part of the new normal in terms of respiratory hygiene.
Right, and I agree with you, and I think it will. I think it's more on the minds of people now more than ever, because it's all about keeping your immune system strong and your respiratory health. And we didn't talk about stuff like this before, but now we are.
Yeah. So how's the flotation side of your business?
It's about a third of our business. So the salt rooms, the halotherapy rooms, is a little more than 50% mm-hmm. of all of our business. Mm-hmm. Then it's the float tank and sauna after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting, because I know there's a lot of people that have different models, or people that are looking for new models, right? There's those that do saunas. There are those that are doing cryotherapy. There is flotation tank. There are other modalities out there that people are combining, and not saying anybody's looking for that right mix, but there's a lot of interesting stuff that is being emerging in terms of wellness and wellness type of facilities.
Right.
We have quite a few customers that do back-to-back services. They'll salt and then they'll go into the sauna or sauna and flow and stuff like that. So we get a lot of back-to-back, transition customers.
Are you guys tracking this stuff? Like, are you able to really get some good metrics in terms of which customers are going to what and how frequently?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We are. It seems like the float tank. Well, the float tank is we get a lot of athletes in there, and of course we get a lot of people that are just curious, right?
Sure.
And actually the sauna is kind of the same thing. A lot of people, athletes or people looking to just really just detox, a younger kind of group. The salt room, to be honest with you, it draws such a wide range of people.
From children to elderly.
Yep. We've had some people bring their kids in there. Groups. A big, we'll get a group of girls in there and they're chatting it up, and then
it goes quiet.
You peep in, they're all out and they're just having a great time. But women, particularly women in the salt room. And not that the men haven't fallen asleep in there too, but it's mostly the women. And I think at first they do it for just a day out relaxation, but then when they do it, they're like, wow,
they actually see the benefits.
I can really breathe.
Yeah. So for example, you just made a comment, a lot of people will do flotation and they'll do it out of curiosity. So it would be interesting to see how many of those folks, we always look at conversions, right? How can you convert that person to then buy another session, in float? And so when you start looking at your numbers and you say, well, how frequently are people doing it? Do you have repeat customers? And it would be curious to get that compared to, as you're suggesting with the salt therapy, because I believe the same thing, that you're going to have a lot more people open to market to going into a salt room, young to old, athletes, healthy, people with conditions, skin conditions. I mean, the market is huge and it's very little maintenance and consumables for it as well. Having a flotation tank and doing one person per hour and clean and maintenance and what you have to charge for that, and then to have that person come over and again is a higher model for it, right? And so same thing with saunas. And so, the real question a lot of people have is, can a salt therapy facility really make it just as a salt therapy facility? Do you need some of these other modalities to balance off, or at least to cross market? As you were saying, how many people are doing back-to-backs? Are you putting them in packages, different structures? So you've been open for 4 months, so you don't really have enough to really get your feet, hands into it. But it sounds like you're like, all right, here we go.
Right. You want to talk to that as far as how people try the different stuff?
Are you seeing a trend? Do people like to do one thing than the other, and is it like a pattern?
Well, they usually ask us how we feel would be the best thing, and we always tell people, if you're going to do the sauna or the salt room and sauna, always do the salt room first and then go to the sauna, because we don't want be sweaty and get all the moisture and stuff in the salt rooms and stuff like that.
And we have seen the interest. Now we do have some customers that literally they come in, they know what they're going for, and then that's it. We try and explain those if they're not interested. But but we do have a lot of people that do, like Chris was saying, they like to jump around from the other, because they all provide a little bit of a different benefit. And what you said earlier is exactly true. The salt room is a safe alternative to maybe one of the other two. When I say safe, I mean it's not scary. Some people are claustrophobic, so the sauna, or especially the float tank, even though our float tank is one of the bigger ones where you can leave it open, they're still a little bit leery. The salt room is very open and very
glass,
open.
There's glass in the front, and it's not. And a lot of people don't like the extreme heat, and some people don't like the confined spaces and stuff like that. So the salt rooms are definitely something that everybody can do.
That's right. And so to your point, I think facilities can be successful just as a salt facility. It's even now, especially going forward with everything that's happening. No doubt. Yeah.
It's interesting as I'm thinking of the different modalities. you know, I have a lot of customers and clients that we work with in sauna, and I have some partnerships with some. And for me, going to a facility to sit in a sauna, that if I can't take a shower or do something, I'm old school. You went to the club, you stayed there and you did everything and all that stuff. But I would think at your facility, I would do the sauna first, then I would float so that I could shower,
Yeah.
and then float, shower off, and you know.
Yeah, we definitely instruct our people that inquire about that. We'll definitely force, or not force them, or kind of nudge them that way.
Right. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, very cool. Yeah. So yeah, and I think to your point too, I mean, flotation, it's the same thing with cryotherapy, you know, it's going to hit a certain market.
Mm-hmm.
You know, athletes do it, you know, there's some higher risk, there's some new technologies out there. A lot do have a flex room where they're going to be doing massage, or facial, or more towards the med side. We've been seeing a trend where there's a lot more medical and med spas doing this, where they're doing IV hydrations in a salt room. So if you're going to be there with a drip in you, getting hydrated or getting your vitamins and your IVs, why not be in a salt room, breathing in salt air at the same time? And they make it so that there are ways that the salt particles won't make through anything. So it's all safe and everything. It's interesting.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible.
You know, so I think, you know, there's people that are doing a lot more with salted yoga. There are people that are considering now, we have a customer who has, you know, 7 treatment rooms and a salt room, and they're really considering converting another of the treatment rooms into a salt room now, and really starting to look at what's this new normal going to be when some of the day spas are opening up, and, you know, how much of the impact of this COVID-19 is going to be you know, people being hesitant for certain types of treatments. I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
It's all uncharted territory. And what we've done too in our 3rd salt room, where Chris was saying it's ADA compliant, so there's no salt on the floor, right? We actually can use that also for clients they want for massage therapy. They can get their massage in that room while, you know, having the salt treatment as well. So that actually is another benefit, and another way that a salt facility could, you know, give an added benefit.
Yeah, and that's what, you know, where you can have multiple modalities out of a room, or if you can be doing things like sound therapy. I think you're going to see a lot more growing trend about doing breath work. So when you look at the context of salt therapy from a perspective of the respiratory system, we've been hearing a lot of people that have gone through and survived through the first break of the COVID-19, that it's how to really breathe properly and how to get oxygen in your cells. So I think there's an opportunity for people that have salt therapy facilities to really educate people a lot more and do things where they can have certain breath work and do things, and what they're able to take with them when they leave your facility, to be mindful of respiratory hygiene and keep that going. So wherever you can keep adding those kinds of aspects to it, I think it's going to be interesting for people.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you. We all breathe wrong, they say. So I think that's going to be a bonus. Can you speak to a little bit about, you know, we have some customers that they really don't maybe fully understand, you know, what is the true benefit of breathing these salt particles? And we talk about it all the time, but I like hearing it from you, because you, like you said, you've been doing this for so long, and you've seen all types of, you know, conditions and treatments and things happening. So if you were just to talk to somebody about it, what would you say?
Well, you know, salt isn't something that people don't know about. They have a different context, right? People know salt in terms of cooking, and now people know salt by the ocean, or people will know salt, you know, from a variety of different contexts. People, you know, have neti pots, gargling with salt water. So salt isn't strange for people in that regard. And so people kind of have an already idea about that. salt is somehow therapeutic, even in nebulizers, right? Most drugs have sodium chloride in them to help assimilate into the body and into our system. So the context around it is this is all about dry salt. And so dry salt, when you inhale these micron-sized particles, and when I mean micron, we say that because people really don't understand how small that is. And so if you took a piece of hair out, it's about 50 microns to 70 microns in diameter. So 1 micron is really small, and submicron sizes as well. So that's what's getting deep into the respiratory system now. Because it's dry, it has a tendency to pull moisture out. And that's where there's been some interesting studies now about putting sodium chloride in masks, that there's some research happening right now up in University of Alberta, where when the salt crystal absorbs moisture, it pulls out. And so the droplets that are out in the air that we're so concerned about, that if this face mask, what it does is it strips the virus cell completely of moisture and kind of suffocates it. So there's some interesting studies being done about it, but in terms of just how we inhale it, it pulls out the mucus. Our bodies need salt in our system. And so if we don't, we get a lot of extra mucus inside. So there's, just from that perspective, I know I had cancer a few years ago and had a tracheotomy in me. And I was getting a lot of radiation treatment for a tumor that I had. And the salt therapy helped facilitate all of that. So people that have asthma and allergies, this is something that impacts them. Also from a point of view is that salt is anti-inflammatory. It's natural. It's kind of like why we put salt on meat. It opens it up. So likewise, our airway passages. So people that have COPD or want extra lungs, this is why we do it for racehorses. We've been doing a lot of salt therapy for stables where we have converted farms into salt rooms.
Okay.
They have, 200-liter lungs, huge lungs, and they're tremendous athletes. And so there's a lot of work being done about how this really impacts the oxygen capacity, which is part of what we're looking at here with this, virus and other things that affect us. And then it's antimicrobial. It's, meaning it does for many bacteria and virus stops from spreading. We can't make any claims about the coronavirus, the particular one right now, because we haven't studied that. But there's some general ideas about what salt does for our respiratory system. And there are studies that have been done. There needs to be more. And we actually have a couple that we hope are going to get started right away. But that's part of where I think it is. So I don't think it's a far stretch for people to understand it. There could be a lot to say. But I think that the simplest things I always revert to is how it's super absorbent, how it's anti-inflammatory, and how it's, antibacterial. People understand that aspect. Right. Likewise with skin, when you talk about exposing it, people that get breakouts from psoriasis or eczema is from inflammation. And because of these micron sizes, it really gets into that first epidermis layer, and it provides relief for people.
And I think that's important in what you were saying. A lot of it's respiratory. Because we get so many people saying, well, what if I have high blood pressure? Or,
Right.
how's it going to affect us? And we say, well, it's not, it's respiratory, it's not digestive, right? So
Right.
What if somebody says, well, yeah, but what if I'm opening my mouth and it's coming in,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a little bit coming in there, but I don't think it's anything that's major scale.
People always should, consult with their physicians if they have any questions, right? But there hasn't been any known side effects about that with people with hypertension or high blood pressure or different things, where there's been any adverse side effects to this. The amount of salt that is being utilized in a halo generator and the size of the room and what people are exposed to is somewhere around 10 to 24 microns per cubic meter. And so when you think about it in the invisible of what we can't see, it's not a lot of salt. And to your point, it is something that is going through the respiratory system. And so it affects it differently in terms of where it's cleaning out into the system, our organs and our trachea and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different mechanism, but there are a lot of people that will have a perception, oh, salt's bad for me. You know, I'm on a low sodium diet. You know, what's it going to do to my hair or to my eyes? And so a lot of people have this vision that you're going to be walking into this steam room full of salt, you know, and it's almost as if you can't see it unless you hold up a light to it, you know. So, but it is, you know, there's a lot of people that also think, oh, the Himalayan salt, that's where all the benefit is from. You know, it's, oh, look, yes, I get these negative ions, or the, you know, the salt particles come from the core. And I think that's even more of a misconception than anything else.
We stress that with our, when we explain everything, we tell people it is just strictly for looks. You know, there's no health benefits for that glowing wall or the salt on the floor. It's just something cool to walk in and sit around, you know, it's just the ambiance and the experience that you're getting.
Yeah.
But the ambiance matters, you know, it's, look, we're partly in that business, as you know, so I love the decor. We've got some amazing projects that we've been doing. I mean, this is what's also exciting about the industry. On one end, you have folks like you in the communities that are really committed to community wellness. And then you've got institutions where, whether it's the Hard Rock or it's new luxury residences being built or country clubs wanting this, people are really seeing the value. We've been doing a lot of private homes. It's really interesting in that marketplace, you know, in what you're seeing now. And we're coming out with some new concepts now. We have somebody that we're actually doing a container, like a shipping container, overseas, where they're converting that all into a salt room.
Oh my gosh.
We're just recently designed one that can be in a 20-foot container. And so there's some interesting things that are evolving. We have somebody who wants to convert an ambulance into a mobile salt room and part of it. So we're busy engineering some interesting stuff, but you're seeing this kind of, I think, evolution of the industry that's going to keep going. And I think it's important with these other modalities too. You know, I haven't floated in a long time. I remember the first time I did a flotation tank. Back then it was sensory deprivation.
Yes.
After seeing the movie Altered States. And
77 when that came out or something like that.
Yeah, well, I did it. It was a place in Coconut Grove called the Womb Rooms, being back in the womb. And each room was decorated a little bit differently and had its own kind of hippie, trippy kind of vibe. And that's kind of what we did, and then go into a tank, and that's trip back and trip out for a while.
Right.
Yeah, well, we've had some customers ask, am I going to have hallucinations and stuff like that? I'm like, not likely. You know, you're not going to be comfortable enough your first session to really get into that state of mind. It takes float sessions to really get comfortable in it.
Sure. And while there's I wouldn't say a stigma around that, I do think between what's out there with CBD and medical marijuana and being able to really get mindful of doing flotation or taking a breath and doing these things, I think we are seeing a lot of interesting ways that people can get well and stay well. And, you know, it's interesting to see where it's going to go. You guys are thinking about when we come off of this and how life is going to be, or what the new normal will be. I think at some point we get back to whatever normal, but I think there may be some new normals as well. So what have you guys been thinking about for your own facility, given what you know, the different way that you're set up?
Well, I think we've, been discussing there obviously is going to be, new kind of cleaning techniques in between clusters. I mean, we pride ourselves as very, very clean and organized, and a lot of our reviews reflect that. People are amazed and relieved at how clean our facility is, but we're just going to amp that up a little bit. And we might have to, enforce wider, you know, spaces in between customers. Like I said, right now in 2 of our salt rooms, we'll talk about the salt rooms, you know, we have 4 chairs in there. We might need to spread them out a little farther from each other than what they are now, or, you know, reduce the seat size, but we'll have to go figure that out as time comes about.
Yeah. Do you think, you know, I wonder about this too, you know, those that, you know, I think right before people were having to close up based on where they lived and in their states and such, you know, people were starting to talk about, you know, eliminating some of the chairs and maintaining the social distance. You know, it'll be curious to see what happens in some places where will people feel comfortable going in a room with people they don't know at all? And do we need to start looking at it in terms of just booking it based on family or groups, or, you know, not, you know, are people going to know who has what? You know, being in a salt room sometimes does make people, you know, want to sneeze or cough or whatever, but it doesn't mean, you know, what it's going to be. So now anytime you see somebody sneeze or cough, what are we going to, you know, are we going to run? I don't, you know.
It's true, because, and that's the one thing we always tell people, because we always have tissues available, because we'll say, look, you know, when you go in there, your nose may run, you might sneeze, you might cough. I said, but those are all great signs, because that means it's working, and now it means something totally different. And yeah, trying to address those is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Yeah, we're still working on what those details are going to look like.
Having flexibility of 3 rooms too
helps.
Definitely helps. Yeah,
I would imagine so, you know, especially with the flotation tank and, you know, surfaces and what people might be thinking. And you know, I know what goes into cleaning them prior to all of this, and there's very strict protocols and standards for doing that. But again, it's really educating the customers and developing the relationships and being in communication, informing them, I think, is what's critical for all of that.
Yeah, and I was in the swimming pool industry down in Florida before we moved up to Pennsylvania. I worked for a family business. He's a commercial contractor. I'm a licensed residential swimming pool contractor in the state of Florida. I'm very familiar with taking care of the water. So it's one of the things that I really stress when I'm doing my walkthroughs, when customers really want to see the tank, they're curious. I tell them how I take care of it, when I take care of it, what kind of sanitation, you know, has UV, ozone, plus I use bromine, I use hydrogen peroxide, you know, enzyme removers. I always tell them I'm upfront with how I take care of it and how often I take care of it. So,
and plus all the salt that's in it.
Yeah, there's 900 pounds, so it's a very sterile environment. Nothing's really, I mean, there's bacteria is not really going to grow in the water. I mean, you got to really keep the inside of the tank clean and the fiberglass surfaces and stuff like that. So, you know, I really stress how clean that water is.
So is there,
hurts.
right? I know you mentioned about all the salt that's in the flotation tank. So when you kind of market your facility, is there any kind of play that you guys do between the floating in the salt water and the salt room?
Along with the name too, 11th element. So sodium's the 11th element on the periodic table. So I mean, it really encompasses everything that we do, because when you're in the sauna, you're sweating out, you know, a little bit of salt in your sweat, and then you're in the salt tank plus the salt room and stuff. So, you know,
we definitely play off of that, and people love it. So yes.
People don't really get it, and we have to explain it.
They get it. Yes.
And then they go in the sauna to sweat out their salt.
That's right.
Yeah, detox. Mostly we say detox, so you know, detoxing in there.
But we're very optimistic about you know, what's next for us, and it really specifically because of our salt rooms. And we think we were busy before with them, and we think it's just going to be gangbusters after. And so what we want to do as well is, you know, we're not the only ones that are closed. There's so many people are closed, and everybody is going to be really kind of watching their finances here on out, I think, right? And so we're coming up with ways where they can still come in and get their treatments, because we had regular clients already coming in, and so we want to continue that relationship. And also with the new people, they're going to be looking at more respiratory, you know, health. So we're coming up with creative ways to help them kind of experience it up front.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a great opportunity for a new narrative to be told to many people, and being able to educate people, reaching out to your local health departments and some of the community hospitals, and the assisted living facilities that whole arena is growing with salt therapy. I mean, we've got we have a project where a pretty significant player, they're already contracting in 6 of their new locations, a salt room in each one of them.
Wow. Wow.
And so if you think about a child daycare center, having a playroom or a nap room for, obviously get permission from parents, but, there's some interesting things I think that we could be thinking about. And then how to really prepare for your marketing assets today. So like you said about financing, a lot of people are going to be hurting. I hope people are going through the SBA loans or trying to take advantage of wherever you can get some money, low interest money, delaying where you can with some of the folks that you do business with. So it's important that people sustain themselves through this. But you need to start being proactive about what's your marketing, what's your messaging going to be. What are the things that you want to start doing today that is going to be informing your community and starting even now doing so,
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's why we're more active. I joke around. I say we're busier now than when we were open because right. We are, you can do 2 things. You can just sit back and feel sorry for ourselves that everybody's closed, or we could say, no, this is the time, like you're saying, to be active, be proactive. This is the perfect time to start educating people even right. more so, because we can't do it in person. So we need to do it online. And, we've done a variety of videos and talks, and we post information all the time because it's really important that they understand this before we open.
Yeah. And so are you doing things, I know you mentioned something around getting local businesses together on a Zoom meeting and talk and then just share and kind of like develop your tribe, so to speak, in your area.
Exactly. Our facility literally is right next door to like a hot yoga studio, and these other holistic businesses in the area, gym owners, a holistic life coaches. So all these people we're having these conversations with, and once we can get open, we're going to have a big networking group,
kind of like a health fair,
a little bit of health fair, and so we can
that's great. There Renee Stern, who works for Salt Chamber, had been there for a while. She helped start the Holistic Chamber of Commerce here in our region. I don't know if there's some in your region. It's something to check out. They're an interesting group of people that basically is a holistic chamber of commerce in local communities.
Interesting.
Sounds like what kind of, that kind of like-minded people of getting things together and such.
Right. Yeah. I don't think there's anything like that around
here. They're not everywhere. Someone needs to bring it to a community, but they have some structure. And I remember when Renee started it here, Salt Chamber, and we became a member, and they have networking meetings, if you will, and functions and events, and it's part of a national group. So it's something to check out.
Yeah, definitely.
And to your point, that's part of it. I think, it's something that the Salt Therapy Association, we want to do more of as well. People love to hear from things like with what you guys are doing. There's a lot of people in the same position. They just opened, or they were about to open, or they, certain levels, and people are a little bit scared, and what do we got to do? And so there's a way of communicating, tribing with everybody. There are people that are in the Facebook page for the salt, the facility members. But to your point, how do we keep people in the loop and do this more? And it is, I think, the technology that we have. No one was doing Zoom meetings before, really.
Right.
And you can record it, and it's really simple, and then you can share it. And while I think there's so much being inundated, right? Let's do a web class. Let's do this. Let's do that. I think we got to kind of get the messaging out there as a group too about what salt therapy could be in the future, and start making sure everybody's being prepared for it, like you guys are thinking about it.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be a big boom with it. And we're thankful that we got into it when we did.
Yeah.
The word spreads, and like Chris said, it's the biggest part of our business, of what we do.
Yeah, and it's interesting too for our business at Salt Chamber. While there are some projects that have been put on hold, obviously, there were people that had been thinking about adding this to their business or starting a new business, and so people are like looking at it again differently and saying, "Wait a second, maybe we should be doing something right now." And then I think there's those that are, having to look and putting it on hold because of the money and what their resources might be. And so, we're seeing, a lot of that. And then we have the larger projects, which, many of them are moving forward as if they were, with construction and everything else. So it's an interesting time, but it's great that you guys, I can't wait to see your place, get out and around and come there. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get together in September for the Salt Therapy Association conference. We had to put off the symposium that was supposed to happen in May in Poland, but we're trying to figure out, maybe we should do some kind of virtual get together and things like with you guys going through it and hear some other stories and really see how we can create some sharing about what we want to be doing collectively and how we could kind of mastermind with each other some things that we could be doing, for ourselves and for the industry.
That's right. We'd love to be part.
Yeah, cool.
Great.
Well, I'll be curious to see what else what we can do to help support you guys. I think, I think you represent very well. And, I'd be curious for you guys to really look at what those numbers are, being open only 4 months doesn't give you a lot of benchmark, to draw from. But
almost 900 customers in those 4 months.
Right. Are you keeping track though, in terms of how many of those, what they're repeating and what they're getting? And
I can pull that up through our software.
We use
Booker.
Yeah.
You're using Booker?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, having data, that would be the thing I'd like to see. And when you guys pulled, if you could share, because I'm curious to those kinds of trending. I wonder if there's a more of a franchise business opportunity where you take certain concepts, put them together. You guys know flotation, so I think the group True Rest.
I've heard of them. Yeah.
True Rest centers. So we've done a few decor jobs. There's one that wants to put salt rooms. We've got people that have retail CBD centers wanting to do salt rooms now. A lot of people want the salt booths. I think a salt booth is going to be a big seller, just for an individualized treatment in what people are doing. So you're going to really just need to watch people coming in, with strangers or not. I think that's going to be the first thing to really look at, having people book these rooms as groups or families. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Right. That'd be a great marketing thing. Yeah. Just, and bring you and your family in for a salt session. Yeah. Like a family experience.
Yeah. Get salted, get salted, siblings day just happened. Get salted siblings, get salted mommy and me, get salted, play date girlfriend. You could do get salted dating at some point with a partition inside it.
All right. Yeah.
Some kind of salted speed dating kind of thing.
Hey, that's a neat thing, yeah.
Hey, look, I don't sleep sometimes either. I'm always trying to think of something. This new container idea is kind of interesting. That's going to be kind of cool.
That's crazy. They're doing it as a business or for themselves?
Well, yeah, both. Because think of it as like a salt room pop-up. What's really cool is, you can appreciate this. We actually have it completely engineered with HVAC all in there, in the front part of it where the salt room is, and the exhaust and the filtration, where the halo generator is, the air. We're using UVC lighting that's going in there. We're doing this whole setup. Boom. And it'll be all decored out as well, so it won't look like a container.
Right.
I have to send you a couple of renderings, but
yeah, But you said you're doing it in a smaller one too, right?
Well, we're coming up with a smaller one. Larger one is actually in England, where this guy is building it out, and they do a lot of his whole office structure are like a bunch of containers interacting with each other, like cool offices or architecture stuff. So this is one long salt room, and so we kind of engineered one, and it could be something that you could easily put in a parking lot in a mall for a month, or take it to a festival, or put it in a hospital.
But how do you transport that?
You need a truck.
Like a big rig.
Well, it's not that big, but to a degree. I mean, when we bring in our containers from Pakistan with all our Himalayan salt, we're bringing in containers. So likewise, if you think you've seen those like pods for storage.
Yes.
They pop off a pod.
Like a flatbed or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, that will cost maybe a couple $100 to move it. That's about it in the local community.
So what's the build-out cost for something like that?
We're just getting that figured out now, but we're thinking the whole thing decored out with all the AC generator, halo generator, decor and everything could probably sell for under $30,000.
Oh, wow.
That's great. How big, how long?
It's a 20-footer, and the salt room part is about 175 feet.
So it's in between.
It's 8 feet by 20. So there's a door that you walk into,
yeah.
Right? And that's like the little waiting area. There's the place for the halo generator, and then you walk in through a door into the salt room. Mm-hmm. And then that's it.
How big is the salt room part?
I think it's 8 by 20 is the whole thing. So this part is about 150 something square feet of the salt room size. Okay. So you get 4 chairs in there easily.
Okay.
With distance.
That's cool.
Another motto was doing it and just putting 4 salt booths in it, kind of finishing it out as individual sessions.
Well, that was my point, because that's a really great idea. But if we get to the point where folks are not wanting to be, close to each other, you put the booths in there and separate them by the curtain or something.
Yeah, we're doing a project right now where they're actually took a 12 by 10 room, and they left 4.5 feet for a hallway. So you walk into the room, and then there's 2 areas that have been divided into a built-in salt cabin kind of booth. And the halo generators are recessed into the wall. Okay, there's a vent in each of these. It's got a frosted glass door. So you got like some privacy. Yeah. And it's bench seating, so it's big enough for 2 people. And so they have 2 of these in this kind of room, and they have the backlit Himalayan brick wall. So it's supposed to be actually happening at the PGA National in Palm Beach. Mm-hmm. They're going through a big renovation. So this came off of a design that the folks up in Wisconsin, they have a facility, and he developed a way of just side by side 2 small little rooms that each have their own halo generator on, and it's just, you're in there and boom, in and out. How much are you guys charging for a float session?
55.
Yeah, 55, which is a little lower than a lot of places, but we're wanting it to be a little more accessible. I mean, we're still making money at 55.
Right.
We could charge 70, 75 like everybody else, but
we have to consider the area too. So where we used to live in Orlando, everything was a little bit more expensive, or the salt room where we went to over in Vero Beach. Yeah. Prices are a little bit higher, but around here, it's a coal mine valley, and it's the size of the population is smaller, and it's more of it's a working class here, right? People work hard for what they get, and so we want to keep that in perspective too, and still give them a really good service, but at a price point that makes sense for this area.
Right. What's your salt room? What's your salt sessions going for?
45.
How much?
45.
45 for a single session.
For 40 minutes.
Gotcha. And do you have packages and memberships?
We do packages, we do memberships. We also give them a deal if they bring somebody with them. So if they bring somebody with them, that extra person's $25. Because the way we look at it is the room's being used anyway, right? And so if we got to fill those seats, if I'd rather have somebody in that seat than it be empty.
Right.
Yeah.
And we get it all the time. People are bringing a guest.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
usually it's never one person.
Yeah, so you haven't been open enough to really to get to see if there's price resistance going on with you yet.
Right. We have done some specials where we've reduced it a little bit, just like we figure out maybe what's our slow day. So, and then we've noticed that, hey, if we drop the price a little bit, it's booked up. Right. So I think we're finding that we may do some adjustments.
Be almost 90% full every day.
Right.
Because we did Wednesdays, we had probably 2 appointments all day, and then we did like a 50% off, and we had 40 appointments that day. So I'm not going to lower my prices half, but I mean, we can definitely.
Well, that's the problem. Some people, when they've opened and gone to Groupon and all that stuff, and then you just have to.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of Groupon because the only people that win at Groupon's Groupon.
Right.
Yeah. They've been after us how hot and heavy, and I was like, thank you, but I'm just not interested.
Do you guys invest in getting everywhere on your listings as well as at your search engine and keywords and everything else where people finding you and everything?
Yeah, we're doing all that. We're doing a little bit more. We took some time to optimize all of our web pages and, our social media. Like I said, we're kicking it up and we're adding channels because I was really just focusing on Facebook, Instagram, and that's kind of where I stopped. But I've been adding now Twitter and LinkedIn YouTube. And added the YouTube channel because even though a lot of the same information is on different channels, it just depends. Some people don't go to Twitter, so they're going to find us on a different one.
Have you done to consider Facebook advertising or this or that? I mean, right now it's not expensive really. I mean, all our business, for Salt Chamber, all our business, we do a lot of different things to have people find us and everything. But I don't know what it's like at a local level, to really getting out there.
Oh, there you are.
Yeah, I just don't know how it is when you're doing it at a local level, how it pays off. But would you pay $500 to get $500 back?
Sure.
Yeah. Right. You do that all day long because of what that can turn into.
Sure.
Now, would you spend $500 and only get $100 back? Still, that might make sense because of what your conversion rates are and what you could be doing and everything. So, and when you reopen and you start going, it'd be interesting to see how you can be doing these kinds of things and tracking. And it's almost like back in the day of doing direct mail. You change the color of the envelope or the headline on the envelope, or you do this or you do that, and what hits and what doesn't, and that's part of that game too.
And what we do is we do two things when we, especially a first-time client, on the client intake form, we say who can we thank for the referral? How did you hear about us? And then, but we always ask them, hey, how did you find us? Because we've done a lot of stuff. We've done some online stuff.
TV.
We've done TV. We've done radio. We've done the newspaper because around here people still read newspapers. Right. And we've done a variety of things. We've sponsored different events, like half marathons or things that gyms are doing. And we do ask them. We do kind of keep track. Oddly enough, we're in a shopping center, so two doors down, 2 or 3 doors is the UPS store. There's so much traffic going to that, right. And we get a lot of just walk by. People are like, oh, I was just driving by and I saw this place because the facility that we're in. It used to be a Hallmark store, and if you're from this area, chances are you grew up with that store, you shopped in that store, so everybody knows it has a really good reputation. So it's a really high traffic area for us. Yeah. So we do kind of keep track.
So when people are walking in, they're curious. But do they convert then and there in terms of buying something or scheduling something?
I would not
always.
I would say about 30%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But we do that. We try and either at least get them, because we say if we can just get people in the door we know we can get them. And when I say that in a positive way, because then we can show them the benefits, and show them how. And so when I say we can get them, I know that they're, we need them to really see and believe that, hey, yeah, this stuff can help me. And, we even do that when they're checking out, can we book your next appointment, or when would you like to book? Because we know that it's just like going to the gym. You go one time and what, you're not going to lose that 10 pounds at one time. It has to be a consistent regimen for you to see the results. And then you switch to a maintaining schedule. So you might have to come once a week, 2 times a week in the beginning, but guess what? Then you just maintain it. Then you come as you want to. Right. And then what
That's where, creating respiratory hygiene programs or this or that, and I think it's important for people to be looking at. It's sort of just packaging it in a way that makes sense today, right? So that, wow, if you're doing this and given everything that's out there, why not come on a weekly basis? But there's just interesting stuff to be kind of considering what there's there. Because if I were you, I'd be wanting to know how many new people walk through the door each week, how many of those did I convert? Out of those, how many recommitted? What are those numbers? Do you have, demographics? Are you able to, you can go crazy with it too, and you're just open. So, but, to the degree you have that kind of data and, always keep fine tuning it, that's what the name of the game is, And I don't think that a lot of business operators out there, you've got to, let me back it up. You have the full range of people. You've got people who get into this business, and if you don't work it, it ain't going to happen. You really have to work it. And people need to understand that. And part of that is the marketing side. Yes, you have to have a good product. You have to have good service. You got to have it clean. You got to do all the basics, but then you got to amp it up a notch to differentiate yourself. And then you got to be smart in terms of your business.
Yeah, and in our community too, it's kind of, once you get in, we're really well known in this short period of time because we've been marketing ourselves, going to networking groups, networking events, just meeting with the right people. People when they mention us, they know who we are. They know our faces, they know, they know us. And
one of the chamber people said, she's like, I can't go anywhere without people knowing who you are already, because we were promoting this when we had nothing to show, right? We were doing this way back before our build out even started. And so that was the hard part, is trying to convince people that this was a legit thing.
Right.
And you couldn't show them anything.
Right.
Anything.
Right.
But now when they come in.
You guys have a virtual walkthrough video of the facility?
Yeah.
Well, we do. We had a marketing agency did a little walkthrough for us. We had an actual a television commercial separately that was made. And what Chris and I are doing now is we're first of all, we're telling our story, because everyone's like, how did you get into this? We have such diverse backgrounds.
Right.
So we tell his story of him, being injured and then going for stem cell treatments and then using all of these things. So they're really fascinated by that. And we stayed away from it in the beginning because I didn't want people to say, oh, here's our face. I wanted it just to be the facility. But what we've learned, and people have told us this before, is people want that personal story, and they respond to seeing you. And it's true. The videos where he talks about his story, or now that we're going around the different rooms and talking about the different services and how they benefit in different conditions, the video numbers are way up.
Hundreds of
views. As opposed to just one of my picture texts or anything like that. It's real important. So that's the one thing I would tell people is, if we could have done it over, I would have said we would have started it earlier, telling our story, doing videos and talking to people about it. I think that's what really is sells, and helps them understand a little bit better. We learn when people talk to us, because a lot of times I can give them all the studies and papers and documentation, but who's going to read all that? Probably not very many people.
Yeah.
But if they can see it, then I think that translates.
Yeah. I was speaking to somebody else, and I haven't really thought much harder about it yet, but it'd be great to come up with a way for people to be capturing all these stories of your customers. And whether it's through social media or them filling something out or you posting up a wall of whatever, or I don't know, but that's also part of it. So just like what you just said, people like the stories. They like your story. So now get more people to tell their stories.
Mhm.
And if you can get more people to tell their stories, you know, it kind of happens that way.
Right.
Like what we're doing here as well.
Right. No,
Right.
you're right. You're right. We need to get better at doing that. I mean, we ask everybody to, you know, give us the good testimonial, give us a referral and everything online, but we need to we need to do more video testimonials.
I know a lot.
Yeah. I mean, getting reviews and everything. I mean, okay, yeah, you do what you need, you know, you do on that. But you know, people have a story to tell, you know, and people benefit from it. And anyhow, whatever those are, I just think it would be, that's really what we want to get people out there, because, you know, at some point, I really want to figure out how we do not only these additional clinical studies, but that we start lobbying the insurance companies so salt therapy is covered, or that you could be using your flexible spending account or your, you know, health savings account money. And some people are doing it, you know, they're using it.
So many people.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. We've had so many people ask us, and we just don't know how to make that happen. We don't know how to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, we deal, part of it is politics, but part of it is championing it. Part of it is having the right clinical study. I mean, having all those stories. I mean, I know so many stories, Renee, we, our whole office, you know, we have probably 1,000 customers, you know, out there, and each one of them has how many customers. So, you know, I hear a lot about it, and I hear like cystic fibrosis stories, like amazing stories, and COPD, and it's like, you know, wow, okay, this is pretty cool. So at what point is an insurance company going to say, wait a second, this salt therapy costs how much, and how much am I paying for somebody to be in a hospital with cystic fibrosis, getting something done, or this kind of treatment, or that, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the narrative is there to be had. It's just having it with the right people, with the right information, and stories help tell that.
Right.
You know?
Well, we would love to figure that out, because we've had numerous people ask us how, if they can use their insurance, and, you know, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see, because I know that there's some folks within the float business, right, for, you know, post-traumatic, you know, stress disorder, and people with bad backs and other stuff. You know, what if a chiropractor had a float tank? You mean, you know, is he going to do some things? I know that there are some physicians that have been in salt therapy, and, you know, is there a difference between a nebulizer treatment or a salt therapy treatment? Because one is a drug by a pharmaceutical company and one isn't, is the difference. So it'll be interesting to see how this can move forward, but collecting the stories and getting more data and validating all the time and capturing it all, I think, is important.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
well, we're with you. So anything we can do to help.
No, thanks. And whatever I can do to support you guys and talk about all that,